Chapter 9 is about project communication management. So many experts agree that the greatest threat to the success of any project, especially information technology projects, is a failure to communicate. So many problems in other knowledge areas such as unclear scope or unrealistic schedules indicate problems with communications. It is crucial for project managers and their teams to make good communications a priority, especially with key stakeholders like top management or senior management. The IT field is constantly changing, and these changes bring with them a great deal of technical jargon. When computer professionals have to communicate with non-computer professionals like most business professionals and senior managers, technical jargon can often complicate matters and confuse those who aren't technically savvy. Even though most people use computers today, the gap between users and developers increases as technology advances. Of course, not every computer professional is a poor communicator, but most people in any field can improve their communication skills. So, the power of communications are widely used for commercials. Ano po? So, we have here in our figure the planned message and our perceived message in drinking Coca-Cola. On the first image, it has a perceived message that you lose energy by drinking Coca-Cola. But the planned message was to get energy by drinking Coca-Cola, as you have seen on the second image or picture. So, communication is very important. It is considered nga as the greatest threat to the success or failure of a project. There are strong verbal and non-technical skills that are key factor in career advancement for IT professionals. Some organizations will hire individuals with minimal technical skills so long as they demonstrate solid soft and business skills. Kasi as we have said, like we have said earlier, there's always a room for improvement of communication skills. Just like what I'm always telling to my students, I don't know if you still can remember at the very beginning, I am always telling you that you have to improve your communication skill. You have to work it now on your own ways, kasi nga we cannot have it on our classroom or our school due to the pandemic. And one way to enhance it is by reading. When you are adding something on your vocabulary, it will surely come out on your mouth. And one thing, if you are not fond of reading, is watching English movies. So, as we know, English is one of the most widely used languages. Ano po? And being able to communicate well using the English medium is an advantage. Especially when you will be on your defense. Diba? Sooner or later, within this month or by next month, you will have your defense with your panelists for your capstone project. So, if you will be able to communicate well with them, especially using the English language, you can express yourself, you can explain what your study is really about, how important it is to pursue, then might as well your panelists will be approving or will be accepting your proposal. There are keys to good communication. First, project managers say they spend as much as 90% of their time communicating. So, as well as in your team for your capstone project, together with your team members, the team leader and the team members, must always be communicating with each other. If there could have been problems, so might as well open up with your teammates so you can address the problem and make solution at earlier stages. That is one thing that I have learned from my superior. Address the problem earlier so we can make solutions on it. Need to focus on group and individual communication needs. Use formal and informal methods of communicating. So as I have said, in a team, you are composed of different people with different behavior, attitude, skills, and knowledge that should be addressed well. There are people who are up for formal communication. So, mas comfortable sila if they have communications over emails or over documents. But there are people who adopt more in terms of informal communications with their superiors, or who can work better by that way. So, parang sa mga bata, di ba, there are students, for example, na mas komportable sila to work on with an assignment when they know that their instructors will be accepting it, even if it's late. For example, nung tayo ay nasa face-to-face. But then again, there are students that can work harder or that can work effectively if they are under pressure, if they know that their instructors would not accept my project or my output if I will be giving it to him or to her on late. I am one of those students na gano'n. That kapag I am on a pressure, I know my superior or my instructor by that time would be mad at me at giving it on a late period of time. So, feeling ko mas work yung brain cells ko to come up with the output that is expected from me. Then, another one is to distribute important information in an effective and timely manner. Set the stage for communicating bad news. So, sabi ko nga sa inyo, it is very important that you address in a team your problems or any bad news. Determine the number of communication channels that you have in your team. We have here the importance of face-to-face communication, diba? During this pandemic, during the conduct of our online learning, we have been able to see how important the classroom setup, for example, or the face-to-face communication. So, research has says that in face-to-face interaction, 58% of communication is through body language, the gestures that you have. 35% of communication is through how the words are said. Are they in low tone or high tone? 7% of communication is through the content or words that are spoken. I was able to study this on my first year as a financial advisor because I want to learn how my client thinks, and how your client thinks could be assessed through their gestures, through the way they see you or the way they look at you, with their hand gestures, or the way they look. For example, I can say that it is really true kasi I have scenarios on my meeting with my client meetings wherein I have read this in that book. For example, that when your client is looking outside, looking on his watch, that means he is losing his interest on what you are saying. So that is the time also na sabi ko, I have to make things work out. So what could I do on this scenario? So from there on, kapag gano'n na yung nakikita ko, or nawawala na, on my first years, nawawala na ng interest yung aking clients, I make it a point to ask them. So, I'll address the problem so that, or I will relate a story. Yung ginagawa ko noon is, I will relate the story of having insurance. So, what I am selling kasi is the insurance plan. So, I'll be relating the story of an insurance to their family para mas makita nila yung importance. So, that is how I practice it. So, that is also one way that you can do. Ano po? Especially when you are working in the company. So, might as well. So, sana lang we will have the opportunity to be working for your OJT in a company. So, you could adapt on those different communication techniques. And the next one, importance of face-to-face communication is to pay attention to more than just the actual words someone is saying. And a person's tone or voice and body language says a lot about how he or she really feels. Personal preferences affect communication needs. Introverts like more private communications. There are really people who are introverts. They opt to be on private places to have a silent communication with people. While extroverts, on the other hand, like to discuss things in public. On the other one, we also have intuitive people who like to understand the big picture. So in general, they would like to see how it would work or the scenario would come out. While sensing people naman, on the other hand, need step-by-step details. Thinkers want to know naman, on the other hand, the logic behind decisions. While feeling people who are more integrated with their emotions want to know how something affects them personally or what would be the effects on their personal matters. On the other hand, we also have judging people who are driven to meet deadlines, while perceiving people need more help in developing and following plans. So when we say judging people, these are more organized people. So this is an example of a letter for setting the stage for communicating bad news. So let me read it. Dear Mom and Dad, or should I say Grandma and Grandpa? Yes, I am pregnant. No, I'm not married since Larry, my boyfriend, is out of a job. Larry's employers just don't seem to appreciate the skills he has learned since he quit high school. Larry looks much younger than you, Dad, even though he is 3 years older. I'm quitting college and getting a job so we can get an apartment before the baby is born. I found a beautiful apartment above a 24-hour auto repair garage with good insulation so the exhaust fumes and noise won't bother us. I'm very happy. I thought you would be too. Love, Ashley. P.S. There is no Larry. I'm not pregnant. I'm getting married. I'm not quitting school, but I am getting a D in chemistry. I just wanted you to have some perspective. So in this way, you set up the bad news. You have the bad news. The bad news on that letter is that Ashley is saying that she is pregnant, that she is getting married, that she is quitting school. So she is getting the worst that his parents or his grandparents will have for her. But at the end, she said, but I am getting D in chemistry. Okay. So, ang magiging effect ni letter or the bad news for his parents, okay lang. Di lang pala naman for chemistry. At least, hindi siya magkukwit sa school. At least, there is no Larry. She is not pregnant and getting married. So, na-lessen yung problems given by or the bad news provided for her parents or grandparents. So magandang technique, 'di ba? So that is, you can also apply this technique on your team members. Ano po? So para mas ma-address natin or we can communicate the bad news well. Running effective meetings. So conducting routine meetings in a team is very important. So, kalakip yan or in connection yan with communication. So, for example nga, on your capstone project, you should always have effective meetings. Even if you will not be able to meet face-to-face, at least online, through online meetings, you can meet with your team members. Determine if effective meeting, determine if a meeting can be avoided. Define the purpose and intended outcome of the meeting. Determine who should attend the meeting or the attendees. Provide an agenda to participants before the meeting. Prepare handouts and visual aids and make logistical arrangements ahead of time. Run the meeting professionally. Set the ground rules for the meeting and build relationships. So for example, our online meetings from this class, diba? At the very beginning, we have discussed that every meeting, you should be attending the class as much as possible. And then, if you were up to open your camera, please open your camera and please wear at least a decent clothes for the meeting. And as well as, diba, you were also instructed that if you have any questions or ideas that you'd want to share, you can open your mic or send the messages over our group chat. We can also use the edge of using email, the instant messaging, texting, and collaborative tools. So these are very important nowadays since nga we are hindered by the pandemic to conduct face-to-face meetings. So there are different processes in communication management. First one is the communications planning, information distribution, performance reporting, and administrative closure. So, in planning communications, this involves determining the information and communications need of the stakeholder. Who needs what information and when will they need when will they need it and how will the information be given to them. The outputs of this process include a communication management and project document updates. So, inputs for communication planning includes communication requirements, communications technology, constraints, assumptions. The tools and techniques that we can apply on this process include stakeholder analysis to interviews or questionnaires. And the output would be communication management plan. Next process is the information distribution. This is very important that everyone have the ample or relevant information about the project. This process involves making needed information available to project stakeholders in a timely manner or on time. The main output of this process is the organizational process asset updates. So, inputs for this process include the work results, communications management plan, and then the tools and techniques that we can apply in doing this activity or this process is the communication skills, information retrieval systems if there is, and information distribution systems. And then the output for this process is the project record. Next one, we have the performance reporting, which involves on collecting and disseminating performance information in order to provide stakeholders with information about how resources are being used to achieve project objectives. So this process includes first, status reporting, progress reporting, and forecasting. In status reporting, this describes where the project now stands. What is the status? What has been accomplished in relation to the goals of the project? Next one is the progress reporting, which describes what the project has accomplished. And lastly is forecasting, which predicts future project status and progress. The inputs for this process includes project plan, the work results, and other project records. Tools and techniques for this process includes performance reviews, the variance analysis, the trend analysis. Also, we have here the earned value analysis, information distribution tools and techniques. And then lastly, for the outputs, we have the performance reports and as well as the change requests by our stakeholders. And that would be all for communications management.